Stacy with Maverick Minded Realtors. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. I would like to talk about this communication of commissions, because I was online the other day in some of these realtor groups, and the anger and the like lack of information and how we go about working with these new NAR rules. We've talked a little bit about the changes, but I specifically would love to talk about your phone call with NAR on communicating commissions.
I would like to talk about that too today.
So
right now.
The question is, so we can no longer advertise what you're offering a buyer's agent when listing a property on the multiple listing service. So there's no information there.
Yep.
Which begs the question of how do we communicate it? And I think there's a lot of questions out there. So how do we do that? What are our options?
So, obviously with it not being there, then just if you're a buyer's agent, I know it's been a long time for you, and I did it recently, like back in the spring, just because, I'm working with family. Anyway, but you have to call and you have to ask the agent. So not only are you making the appointments to maybe the two different showing companies, because we've got two where we're located. You may have more.
Broker Bay and Showing Time in Texas.
And then some agents do not list on either, so you got to call them individually. So maybe you're calling 5 different people to make 10 different appointments. And so you're calling all of these different people. Well, whenever you get a hold an agent, a listing agent, then you're also going to have to ask them. Mm-hmm. What are you willing to offer as a buyer's commission? Now, a lot of agents don't answer the phones. So then how are you going to communicate that?
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of things out there. Immediately, people were saying they were going to put it on social media. And after speaking with our regulating board, which is TREC, you cannot do that. You cannot do it. You cannot share that information anywhere where there are multiple brokers and agents on a platform. So
even if it's not a business page and it's your personal social media, you cannot post a link to that house and then say a commission that you're offering. Mm-mm. Okay.
No, because what you're also trying to avoid is any suspicion, trying to manipulate the market that this is the only what is standard, because it's all negotiable and all of that business. So it's kind of ridiculous, but if there's multiple realtors and brokers on a platform that can access that information that is not your individual website or just a page for that, what is the word that I'm looking for?
Like a landing page?
A landing page just for that property. If it's not something like that's very property specific or brokerage specific, then you can't do it.
I guess I'm not really understanding what the difference would be between having your own personal website and your own personal social media.
Well, own personal social media, it's easier to engage. Own personal website, they have to go specifically to your website.
I see, because you're kind of like advertising versus knowing someone's coming. I understand. So what if you were to, see, now I'm going to get all technical because I'm sure you guys have questions too. What if you were to like blast your website out on social media? Does that work?
Yeah, go for it. Blast out your website or that landing page or whatever. If you want to do like, this is an open house, QR code for more information. That QR code's there, that doesn't have the information. You've got to use the QR code or you've got to go to the website to get the more information.
Okay, I have another hack. You should just, for all your listings that you have, just put in your voicemail. If you're calling about 123 Main Street, the commission is 3%. Yeah. If you're calling about X, Y, and Z, you could.
Yeah,
so it sounds like us as realtors, especially listing agents, because that's the side I'm mostly on.
Yeah.
And I don't, obviously I'll pick up when I can, but you can't physically. So texting, you can do it. Like you can text back what it is.
You can text.
But it sounds like it's going to be just a matter of being able to answer, respond, let them know. Now that comes to the question of whether they're going to show it or not. I got a listing recently where I went to this listing appointment as a referral, and she was planning on going with this other guy who was a flat fee, and he told her, well, you don't have to offer buyer's commissions anymore. So you don't even have to pay that. And my friend who referred me was like, well, that's not really the case. You probably should, because again, you're the listing agent marketing that property and trying to procure a buyer. And you're also going to want to incentivize someone else to procure a buyer. So yes, you can offer nothing, but you made a really good point when we were talking off camera about if they have to sign buyer reps agreements to go see, which is another part of this rule, and that buyer is on the hook for 3% or whatever it is, and then they find out that there's nothing, that agent has to go to their buyer now because the buyer has the most say. So the intent, tell them about the intent of this rule.
So the intent is to give that power to the buyer to negotiate their own terms with their realtor rather than it being set by the seller. So you're giving that to the buyer. The buyer doesn't always know exactly what that is. You're going to have to be better about communicating, which I think is really lacking in our realtor community. So you're going to have to be able to articulate your value and what you bring to the table, and then also be able to articulate why you're worth whatever it is you're worth. So, and if the buyer cannot commit, they don't have the money because it's getting out of their reach, especially for younger buyers or medium household buyers. It's getting out of their reach financially to buy a house because of all the closing costs that come with it. And then now they're going to be responsible up front to pay for that agent if that seller is not willing to offer any buyer commission. When you're dealing with a buyer and they sign that commission agreement, that buyer's rep agreement, which has the commission stated on it, then if they are not able to contribute anything to it, then you as a realtor are only obligated to show houses that pay you. Nobody's telling you you have to work for free.
Right.
However, if this listing is offering me nothing and it's a house that my buyer wants to see, then I have to communicate to my buyer, look, you're unable to pay me anything. Can you pay me something if we're able to get this house under contract? If they still say no, then you can basically say, I can't show you the house.
Right.
I can't show you the house, but you need to know that this is the house I can't show you. If you want to contact them on your own, you contact them on your own, but I can't.
I can't figure out if I love this rule or hate this rule. But part of me likes it because I think that it does force a buyer's agent to be more transparent. And I think it does, like they do have to communicate, because what happens if you show this house and then you didn't do your due diligence as an agent and they aren't offering anything, or maybe it is only 1%. And now you have to have that conversation. So what if they've already seen it, didn't do their due diligence, now that's on the hook? Really, the realtor says, I'm no longer working with you, or I'll take, and you can amend it if you wanted to, correct? Because it's all negotiable. So don't forget, there's amendments to agreements.
Yeah.
So if you find it out after, you can always adjust that if you're willing to take less for that client. But it is going to be up to you as well. But it's a conversation.
And it's also the same if you go, let's say you show somebody a new build. Because a lot of times builders will, especially in a market that isn't just super hot, they're going to offer you a bonus. You know, you sell this house, you know, get it under contract with this amount of time, then we will give you a bonus of $5,000 or another 1% or whatever. And whatever that is that they're offering, if it is more than what you've negotiated with your buyer, then you have to bring it to your buyer and now have that conversation of, well, this builder's willing to offer me this much more over what you're already offering me. Basically, can I accept that?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, and your buyer can say,
that's so crazy.
Can say, no, I want part of that, or no, I don't think you're really worth that, or whatever. I mean, they can do whatever.
Your buyers now determine your worth.
That's why you better know how to articulate your worth and also show that. You know,
I can imagine a buyer saying, well, why can't we put that towards lowering my rate or my costs or things like that? And that's an interesting, I mean, how would you respond to that? I mean, if you were being offered
I would
more.
respond, I mean, one, if it's offered more than what I have on paper or what we've agreed to, then if I have to have that conversation, how much more did I have to do to get this deal closed? Did I have to do more work, or is this just an incentive that the builders are offering? If it's just an incentive that the builders are offering, yeah, I'd be great. I'd love all of it. but I am willing to offer this much towards your closing cost or buy down on your rate or whatever so that you allow me to accept this bonus.
So are there disclosure rules in the event you're being offered more that you have to tell your buyer? Like how do they regulate that or confirm that they're aware?
Well, because, I mean, you have to turn in what your buyer agreement is. And your agreement, if your agreement is 3 coconuts, then 3 coconuts is what you get, period. You know,
it doesn't matter if they're offering 5.
If it's over or under.
What's on
just
there.
like you would have to amend it if it was under that. If you were willing to accept a 2.5, then you have to amend that. Mm-hmm. And so you would have to amend it if you were being offered more. Mm-hmm. And everybody was on board with it, you accepting.
So question on the listing agreements then, because they changed the listing agreements too, if you're representing the seller, to where now you have to differentiate between 2 boxes, A or section B, and you have to say, are you offering anything or not? So what's the commission? So question, if I as a listing agent put, let's say 4%, because that's usually what I work for total and offer, and I say I'm giving 2% to the buyer's agent, 2% to me, and let's say a buyer calls me directly, I become an intermediary, not dual agent, but an intermediary, but it does say I'm offering the 2. Does the contract as is or the agreement as is automatically allow me to take the full 4%?
Well, because in that listing agreement, it does have the box for intermediary.
Already marked, so that covers that
You
thing.
would still want to, in your documents, because now you're filling out documents for that buyer, that buyer has to sign an intermediary agreement. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what are the most creative ways you've heard people trying to communicate the commissions?
I've heard that the lockbox, you know, putting a little tag on your key that says 3%, and rather than an address or whatever.
Can you do that?
Yeah, you can do that. It's
that's
property
fun.
specific, but my
crumpled up piece of paper inside the lockbox.
Yeah.
It says, shh, put this back.
Put this back for next agent. Thank you.
That's kind of like already down the road.
Yeah,
like,
you're already showing the property, so you should already know what that percentage is before you show the properties, right? So that's that's not as proactive. I would say that, you know, kind of like what you were talking, like if here's our video of the house and you're just like, love this house.
You know, love it.
Love it. It is awesome.
If you have a buyer.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything. I'm not explicitly, you know, again, it's on social media. So if it could be
Gray
a very
area.
fine line. They haven't started saying anything about video, but it doesn't have a number on it. It doesn't have a percentage sign. So that would be up to, I talk with my hands a lot. I just talk.
So if you make a video on YouTube, that counts the same as social media. So you can't necessarily say it in that either. It really is just the website or word of mouth.
Yep.
If you wanted to find out before. So you really are pretty limited.
You're very limited. Now, I know that some of the showing companies are looking into if there is any way that in the showing instructions they can go ahead and verbalize that. But as of right now, it's a no-go.
So even on special instructions, we can't write it as of now because they still think that falls under that category. But they're going to find a way. Maybe not.
Maybe not.
We'll see. Really, it just means you got to pick up your phone, my friends, and have more conversations and text. I know I always, and I think it's a good practice anyway, that when you call someone, leave a message and text them. It's just common courtesy. So if I always joke, do you have the right to be upset? Because if you just called them and hung up, I mean, am I going to prioritize calling you back? Probably not, because I have a whole list of people I'm calling back.
Exactly.
And I'm typically going to go and address, and when I know what I'm looking at in the voicemail or what you need, I can decide if I have the time and capacity to answer you now or if I have to answer you later. So I just want to throw that out there on just good communication practices on how to get in touch with a realtor if you need to know something quickly to determine if you're going to go and show something or not. But I think that clears up a lot.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we'll probably amend this later on just because, you know, people are going to get more creative. It's going to be a journey. I think it's kind of, personally, I know you are like, maybe I'm in favor of it. I'm not, just because I feel like that's just putting the burden on the realtors, and I feel like it was lazy legislation in general. But we'll figure out a way. We always do.
I think the only thing I really like about it is the transparency aspect between the buyers and the buyer's agent. I think that's the only piece. I see what they were going for. I do think it was kind of rushed and lazy and kind of let's just put something out there to make it happen. So I do think we're going to see a lot of changes, and they're just like anything new, there's going to be precedent set, and they're going to react to how we react to these rules and kind of find those loopholes. So we'll probably have an update to this one. But that's super clear communication, because I think the biggest misconception I've seen regarding this is you don't have to offer anything. No, it's about disclosing what you're offering. Like, they've always been negotiable. And I don't think buyer's agents are going extinct. Buyers need guidance. Buyers need assistance. You just need to communicate and sell yourself, and also be flexible. Just be flexible.
Most listing agents don't have the capacity to take on buyers. There's a reason,
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going extinct either. So.
Yeah, and that was my comment to you earlier. I said, as a listing agent, I am having buyers come direct to me because they're undecided. Now, granted, that came through Zillow. If we have a minute, I want to just real quick, because another chatter I've seen revolving this topic is with leads on Zillow and whatnot, and people are saying it's going away and all that kind of thing. So there are changes happening. But one thing I had a question on was, what was that whole thing about people saying that, well, they're no longer really giving us leads, which isn't quite the case.
It's not quite the case. So basically, anybody that signed up for Zillow leads, some of y'all maybe are watching this, but if you signed up for Zillow leads, then you were getting these leads and you had to go show that house right then, right? And the faster and quicker you responded and the more that you showed, then the more leads you would get. Now they are saying, well, you can have them sign a non-exclusive buyer's agreement, so they can go with as many buyer's agents as possible. And then the agents are getting irritated because why would I sign that? Because now that's basically guaranteeing me that I don't have any exclusive, this is not really a lead. So what am I paying for exactly? So Zillow's just trying to find out how they can work this niche and still charge realtors for leads that aren't really great leads anymore. I mean, they weren't great to begin with, although I do know some people that have made a living with them, but they are not, they're getting less and less great. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show that, in the coming episodes, we're definitely going to be sharing different niche and ways to get them, different ways you can add value to the industry and to your buyers and sellers to help kind of circumvent some of these changes. So yeah, I would say stay tuned for us in the future. We're going to definitely be staying on top of things, seeing what's going on out there. We're both incredibly active, and we'll bring you our own personal experiences. But if you guys have any insight, please comment below. Let us know what you're thinking. What are you worried about? What are your theories about what is going to shift and change, and the skill sets you think that realtors are going to need to have to be competitors in this industry?
And if you found like a little way to put that message out there, drop it,
let us
share
know.
it. We'll share it with everybody.
Anyway, awesome information. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.